All right, well, it is 9 o'clock, and so we are going to get going. I'm going to ask people to turn off their microphones and their cameras, and then we will get going. When it's time for the Q&A portion, please feel free to turn those back on. And I wanted to thank you all for joining us. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Joel, and just thank you all for joining us.
Thanks, Gabby. Welcome to today's webinar from Create. My name is Joel Shoemaker. I teach at Madison Area Technical College in Madison, Wisconsin, and am a staff person with the Create Energy Center. Create is a national energy center funded by the National Science Foundation, and we're focused on helping support energy programs at two-year colleges to help fill the need for skilled technicians in energy fields. We have a series of webinars that we call innovation webinars with new ideas, lessons, and approaches. And we are putting them into webinars to share them with a broader audience. We can go to the next slide, Gabby. We have a lot of resources that we have developed over the years available on our website. So take note of that if you haven't yet been there. createenergy.org. We can go to the next slide, Gabby. We are in the process of putting together a plan for the next 5 years for the Create Energy Center, and we need your input on what topics and what activities would be most useful. So if you would take a few minutes to fill out the survey. Notice there's a survey for educators and one for folks who are in the industry, energy industry. So you can share these links with other energy educators or other professionals in the energy industry. I believe Gabby's going to put these links into the chat, so you don't have to try to write down everything while this slide is up. Gabby, are there links on our website as well?
They aren't on our website, but they go out in the mailing list that I send. So please be on the lookout for those.
Sounds good. We do have some more energy innovation webinars coming up in the next few weeks. We have one on AI for data visualization that's coming up on May 7th, one on pumped storage systems on May 8th, and then one on a KidWind turbine challenge hosted by the University of Arizona on May 15th. Go to the next slide. One of the most rewarding activities that we host are in-person workshops. These are 3-day events which participants are guided through a number of the different lessons or activities that we have developed on our website by experts, expert instructors, and participants report that they have really positive experiences going through these workshops. They're very useful. They learn a lot. They don't cost anything to attend, and we provide a stipend to help with travel costs. And the participants that complete the workshops also can get up to $1,200 worth of equipment to be able to implement these lessons in their classes. So there's a list here of the workshops that are coming up this summer, a couple of them in Madison, Wisconsin, a couple of in other parts of the country. They are on our website, and the applications are on the website. And there are some spaces left. Some of them are quite full, but there are some spaces left if you are still interested in getting into one of those. We've been working with KidWind for a number of years, and we're highlighting a particular workshop that KidWind is putting on, a virtual workshop at the end of May on solar and storage, because it's related to today's topic. And if you're interested in that, you can go onto the KidWind website to find out more information and to sign up for that workshop. And with that, we can turn to today's presentation, Sunshine in a Jar, Aspiring Toward a Purpose-Driven Light. And our presenter today is Pam Ulicny, who has more than 15 years working in education. A former full-time educator, they have dedicated their work to advancing STEM and renewable energy learning through hands-on project-based experiences. Pam will describe this. She experienced widespread off-grid living in South Africa in 2011 and was inspired to connect classroom learning with real-world impact and develop this solar lantern project. Since 2013, they've created and implemented curriculum that enables students and educators to build solar power lanterns while exploring photovoltaics, energy access, and sustainability. Their work has included curriculum development and collaboration with organizations such as Aspire Youth, 1 Million Lights, and Education Without Borders, including international teaching experiences in South Africa focused on clean energy solutions. Now, Pam is working with KidWind and continuing to support educators and students that are engaging in this field and in the challenges of a clean energy future. They have presented at the National Science Teaching Association and the International Society for Technology and Education conferences and led workshops across multiple states, and is still expanding this Make a Lantern, Give a Lantern initiative, which blends education, service, and the global impact. So with that, Pam, I'll turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I first want to thank people for all of the people that were involved in this. This would never become what it has already been if it weren't for the help of many. Big thanks, especially to Mike Arquin of KidWind. I'll be talking about that. But this started out as something very unexpected, which turned into a dream, and the dream just continues. And I'm very happy and very blessed that any of you out there are willing to take your Friday time in order to hear about this and listen about this. If it weren't for the interest of people like you, this project would not continue. So thank you very much for your time. I'm going to go ahead and share screen so that you can see my end of the presentation. So just give me a moment just to figure out how to do that. So, okay, so share. Okay, and I'm screen sharing. And give me a moment just to start on my presentation. And full screen, here we go. Hopefully you can see where it says sunshine in a jar, aspiring towards a purpose-driven light. I can't see you at this moment, so can somebody just pipe up and say that you can see my screen? It's got a little sun on it and a little light bulb, so could you at least tell me that you're seeing the same thing?
Yep.
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. And in the middle is a QR code. That QR code does take you to a Sunshine in a Jar shareables Google Drive. I'm pretty sure that there's going to be a follow-up email for all participants. And in that follow-up email, I'd be happy to share that Google Drive with you. It contains lots and lots of stuff in there about photovoltaics and battery storage and everything that you could possibly imagine that connects to this whole project of Sunshine in a Jar. So without further ado, and you don't really have to do a screenshot here with your phones in order to get to the QR code. We can get back to that later. Let's go ahead and just give credit to where credit is due. First of all, I want to really give a big thanks to KidWind. The KidWind project is an energy leader in renewable energy education, and they have been working with educators and students to integrate renewable energy into the classroom for 20 plus years and help them to explore a better understanding of clean powered futures. They have tons of curriculum, and they have teacher training workshops and all kinds of KidWind challenges. And we're also blessed by having Mike Arquin, the director of KidWind, also being a participant in this webinar today. And he will definitely direct you towards more instructional materials that go even beyond what I offer through Sunshine in a Jar. So you are now connected to many different resources through KidWind. Mike asked me to start by talking about my story. So what I'd like to say is let's go back to that first thing. If I were to talk about my story in one word, if I were to summarize it in one word, I would say unexpected. And if I told you all the little side notes as to how it was unexpected, it would probably take me a little too long. But first, I'll say that I'm a biology teacher by nature. That was my first life. I taught biology for 32 years here in the high school that I'm presenting from. And I'm a big reptile enthusiast. I had lots of reptiles in my classroom. Mike might not even know that, but that was a little side note. And I'm also a big travel addict. And it started with a travel addiction where every summer I tried to find some funded trips as a teacher to go to different places. And you talk to other teachers and you find out, hey, you know, where did you go? And you eventually figure out where your next destinations would be. And lo and behold, the granddaddy trip of them all, and I'm talking about 2011, so that was 15 years ago, was the Toyota International Teacher Program. Unfortunately, Toyota no longer hosts teachers to go on international trips. But if you go back 15, 20 years, they took teachers to Tokyo. That would be the obvious first destination. And then they went to many other international places. So I remember applying for the Galapagos, and me being a self-professed biology teacher, I would be one of those people that would almost be ready to donate a kidney in order to go to the Galapagos. Wrote the best application I could, unfortunately got declined. And then the next year was Costa Rica. And of course, that's rainforest, and the leatherback sea turtles come up and they nest there. And I was going to lose my mind in Costa Rica. I wrote the best application I possibly could, got declined again. And by the third time, I was just like, you're going to see my application every single year until you just get used to my name or get tired of it and just finally pick me. So I got selected on the third time. I beat over 1,000 applicants. It's very competitive. There's a lot of teachers that want to go on all expense paid trips. And the one that I was selected for was South Africa. And the irony of South Africa is it was certainly at the beginning was not on the top of my list of destinations. I knew very little about the country, but an all expense paid trip was an all expense paid trip. And I landed in Johannesburg in July of 2011. That's their winter time, by the way. That's a little ironic. The ironic part is I told you I love reptiles. I didn't see one single reptile on my first trip because it's wintertime there. But anyway, besides the point, I landed in Johannesburg, a very well-to-do city, which was surprising. It was a city that was built on the gold industry, and we were in really nice places, hotels and restaurants and things like that. I remember walking by an Aston Martin dealership and being sort of surprised by that. I was just like, wow, okay. And then on the third day, we were on a tour bus, tourists that we were. We were the top 24 teachers that were selected for this trip, and they rolled out the red carpet for us. So here we are in this nice air-conditioned, or well, heated because it was wintertime, on this nice heated tour bus. And then we got out of the city of Johannesburg on that third day, and it was only like a half-mile drive, and then the bus just stopped. And I thought that was unusual. We didn't go all that far. And I was on the opposite side of the bus from where other teachers were sitting, and they started looking out the window, and you could sort of tell that something was going on. They were sort of talking to each other a little bit, and then they started getting out their cameras and, getting ready to take pictures. And I was just like, okay, so what's happening here? Of course, I went over to the windows and I looked out the windows, and what you see on this frame here is exactly what I saw, along with many, many more what they call informal establishments. Now, an informal establishments is a politically, socially correct way of saying the households that they lived in. This is Soweto. Soweto stands for South African Township. The word township is an emotionally loaded word in South Africa. It does bring forth a feeling of emotion. I hate to say this, and I'm not trying to be nasty when I say this, but it's sort of like saying the word ghetto. And here's a woman, and she's washing her clothes outside. There's no running water. I saw a man reading his newspaper outside. There's no electricity. And you could see these corrugated metal shacks the informal establishments, and they're held together by cinder blocks, they're held together by tires, however the things were all held together. And there's a woman that's on the tour bus, and she starts to proceed to tell us how 1.5 million people are in Soweto Township, and how the hardships of life are there, that they don't have electricity, they don't have running water, and all of these little intricacies of what life is like living there. And I'm looking out the window and I'm seeing other people taking pictures, and I was just like, wait, something just feels very wrong here. It's this feels like I'm on a tourist bus and these people are the attraction. And I also sort of mentally place myself in where this woman is washing her clothes. She could obviously see that above her on the ledge was a tour bus and that people were taking pictures. And I was just like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this is even happening. I went over and sat on the other side of the bus. I just couldn't find it within myself to be part of that, taking pictures and things like that. I was a little disturbed by that. Now, before Toyota representatives come and tell me that I misrepresented them, and no, I don't mean to do that. Several days after that, we spent time with different types of social enterprises that were talking about how they're helping conditions in South Africa for those that are less fortunate. And we even got off the tour bus and we actually toured inside of these townships. We were allowed in certain selected households where families even told their stories, and the stories were just heartbreaking. So I went to South Africa expecting to see lions and elephants and giraffes and zebras and all that stuff that everybody thinks of for safari tours, which I did see, but I came back with a completely different message. Also on the tour bus was a man, and right in the upper right-hand corner, his name is Mark Gamble, and I still chat with him to this day. The last time I chatted with him was about, I don't know, 2-3 hours ago. The video down below is him driving. You can see that, they drive on the opposite side of the road there. Mark would be very upset with me by saying that I muted this video. He's talking during this time. He's talking about this township that we're driving by being a legacy township. It's a legacy from the history of the politics of the 90s and the 80s, being apartheid, how things are still pretty bad to this day. This is footage that was taken in 2023, so it's relatively recent. And Soweto, being 1.5 million people back in 2011, is now closer to 2 million people. And you can see how it just keeps on going on and on and on. Yes, you do see some power lines. Those power lines do not serve everyone. Some of that power is accessed illegally and very unsafely, where people have had electrocutions, fire hazards, things like that. Those people without electricity use kerosene lanterns, which of course pose a fire risk. Sorry, I'm in a school. And I stopped here at these sand dunes, and ironically, maybe I should have kept the camera going, because I quote Mark on this. He said that after those sand dunes that it paused on, the conditions get even worse. So if you saw what was the better part of a township, I'm just going to let you think that, yes, we are really working with people in disadvantaged situations. So I've done a lot of things in the past 15 years. I've kept in touch with Mark. Mark basically gently and kindly asked me to help. And he believed in me more than I believed in myself. And I kept on saying, okay, I'll try. Okay, I'll try. But there's nothing alive, me being the biology teacher, there's nothing alive in a solar lantern. He came up with the idea, why don't we come up with a way to get a photovoltaic panel to work inside of a glass jar? Let's store sunshine in a jar. Let's teach kids that are off the grid how they can safely and cleanly make power, and possibly try to find ways to light up their informal establishments with photovoltaic light. And of course, I was just like, wow, that's a great idea. But I knew zero about the technology. So I basically had to teach myself. there's a lot of questions I get about South Africa. I was substitute teaching here in this high school just yesterday, and I spent a whole entire class period with one class of 11th graders talking about why South Africa is as unequal and there's so much disparity. It would take me too long, and it's sort of out of the scope of this presentation. But on the left-hand side of the screen here, you see a Time magazine cover that is not AI generated or photoshopped in any way. Literally, there's just a single road in this one section of South Africa where on the left-hand side, you see middle-class suburbia, even people with tennis courts and swimming pools and things like that. And there's just a road. And over on the other side, you have people in the townships that are living again without electricity and running water. So that was, there's a lot of reasons as to why it is the way it was. Apartheid was a major cause to it. It was abolished in the 1990s, but poverty is still poverty. There's still a huge income inequality. There's a very slow economic growth happening. There's very limited access to education and very basic services. And because of all of that, you can see on the clipboard, we have some major unemployment issues, school dropout issues, and many children have lost a mother, father, or both. So I'm sure that you can read the rest of that. There's a lot of systemic issues in South Africa. So I had to drop that biology book because in order to get sunshine in a jar, there's nothing alive in that jar. I had to learn other stuff. So the things that I started learning more of was practical electronics, product design and development. I was teaching environmental science. I taught environmental science in this high school for 32 years. And then I really went crazy and bonkers on the solar part of things. And I made it something that I could use in my classroom, but I could also bring back to South Africa at the same time to make the best win-win that we could get. So continuing on with Passion Project, I actually had a product by 2012. It was done by a mom and pop solar company, Ed Bender. I love him dearly, but he's now retired. So with the first lantern kits that we made, I went back in 2015 and I worked with classrooms and with women's groups, and we made our solar lanterns. I have way too many side notes on that, but I will say that there's things that worked pretty well. There's things that we brought along with us that we thought were foolproof and they failed miserably. So just know that this is a lot of trial and error, and we didn't succeed all the time, but we're holding on to the stuff that worked and we tried to make it better. So I went again. I was supposed to go again in 2020, but everybody knows that that was the pandemic. And Mark Gamble just kept on saying, no, it's not right to come back here. It's not safe to go back here. So by the time I finally got a chance to go back, it was 2023. That was my third trip to South Africa. By that time, unfortunately, Sundance Solar, the first company that made the first solar lanterns, they went out of business. Ed Bender was affected by the pandemic. He was ready to retire, and he is very happily retired up in New Hampshire now, and we're still good friends. Ed Bender, if you want to know who he is, sorry about the bell. If you look at the left-hand picture where it says the Fab Four, Ed is seated there. He used his own funds in order to come to South Africa with me to do this kind of project. He brought his best friend, Rich. Rich is the tall guy that you see there. And the woman that's on the far left of the Fab Four was a woman who just happened to come along with us, who is a native South African. And we found out that she was much more valuable than we ever imagined. She did a wonderful job helping us out. But through Education Without Borders, sort of like Doctors Without Borders, but it's a South African based group. We did go to the most impoverished school districts where they had to bus the kids in order to find a school that had electricity. And then we made solar lanterns. And the solar lantern kits were donated by KidWind. Not only did KidWind donate the solar lanterns, they also donated a lot of wind project stuff for all the wind competitions that we do here in the United States. So on the right-hand side, we also gave them a lot of turbines. My suitcases were so full that I was barely under that 50-pound weight limit, and I had 3 suitcases altogether. So we got a lot of materials, and a lot of that was donated by KidWind. So I just wanted to do a nice shout out to them. I'm going to talk about the educational part of things. But before I do, that is basically my story in a nutshell. I am trying to go fast, but I am pausing in case anybody has any burning questions that they must ask. If not, then I'm going to go into the educational part and the kits.
I think you're good, Pam.
You're good? Okay.
Yeah.
Then the stuff that I was supposed to talk about is voltage and current. I could talk, at length about it, but voltage is something that I have to know about for doing the lantern kits. It's the push or the pressure of electrons coming from a circuit's power source. I call it startup energy. Mike and other people that teach voltage do teach it a little differently, but I know that in order to light up an LED, and we're eventually going to be doing that, the ones that I use need 3 volts in order to light up. That's for the white LEDs. There's other LEDs that need like 2 volts or something like that. Current is the flow of electric charge, the rate of electrons flowing past a certain a point in the circuit. When I talk about current, at least in the solar lantern project, that relates a lot to battery life and how long the LEDs are going to run given the capacitance in the battery. I tell my students that current relates a little bit more to that upper right-hand icon on their phone that tells them how charged their phone is. Again, this is really basic stuff, and I'm sure that there's other people that know more than I do and can give you a lot more clarification, but that's my basic definitions. Voltage times current gives you power. And I also had to learn a lot about series circuits and parallel circuits. Series circuits will increase the voltage if that's what you need, but parallel circuits will cause things to run longer. It's going to increase current. So I have all kinds of stuff on voltage and current that's in the Google Drive. I also have presentations and lessons on how the rechargeable batteries work. Basically, it is a lithium battery that we're using in these kits, but it's a lithium iron phosphate battery. It's a next generation lithium battery that is much less prone to thermal runaway. You keep on hearing about lithium batteries lighting on fire and overheating. These ones are much less prone to it. They have a longer lifespan because they charge a lot more than the other lithium batteries that we've been using previously, and they don't contain any toxic metals. So we did a lot of research into figuring out what's the best battery that's a rechargeable battery that works for this. But when it comes to batteries, you have to know things like anode and cathode and electrolytes and all that other stuff. You also do need to know your chemistry. Sorry, I'm going really fast because I want to show you the kits, but it's redox reactions, oxidation and reduction. So oxidation is when you lose electrons. Reduction is when you gain electrons. And if you look at the little battery icon in the lower right there, there's ways to remember that. Those are just mnemonic devices. So oxidation is loss. Reduction is gain. That's why you say oil rig. Or the other one that I use is Leo goes grr. So lose electrons is oxidation and gaining electrons is reduction. But I have all lessons on that as well. Of course, I have lessons on how photovoltaics work. So we talk about silicon. Silicon is a semiconductor, but you have to dope it up a little bit. So anybody who's into sports, it's done illegally in sports, but if you dope up someone athletically, you just give them a little bit more of a competitive edge. If you dope up a photovoltaic cell, you are just doping it with some phosphorus and some boron in order to make it a little bit more conductive. It all comes down to the way that you sandwich the layers of the photovoltaic panel. If you layer it the right way, then electrons will fall from the top negative layer to the bottom more positive layer. There's a junction that's in between the negative and the positive layers that sort of holds those electrons down on the bottom, but then sunlight pops those electrons back up to the top, and then they get connected, or they get collected at the top anode of the photovoltaic panel. And then if you connect that together, you make a circuit. Again, I'm going very fast, but it's circuits that make the loads work. The electrons get collected off the top of the panel. It runs through a load like a light bulb and then back down through the bottom. I love teaching about solar panels. I even have solar panels on my own house. So I show drone footage of the solar panels on my house. There's a whole bunch of lessons and stuff like that that I do as well. For those of you who want to put the M in STEM and STEAM, there's plenty of math. It's algebra. But if you really want to figure out how to use a solar lantern to light up a very small room, one LED isn't going to be enough. So mathematically, I just chose 4 LEDs. That makes things a little bit brighter. And then I have all the specifications of the solar panel, of the battery. And then you can start asking questions that relate to series and parallel circuits. And then how much current are 4 LEDs going to draw in parallel? I have all of that. It's all in this presentation. I'm just going to the next frame. And in the next frame, it has all the answers. And if you want this presentation, I am more than happy to share that with you. Just telling you that you can easily work your math into this. If you're a physics teacher, then we should get into Ohm's law. So Ohm's law is that little pyramid triangular diagram that you see in the upper left-hand side there with voltage, I is current, and R is resistance in ohms. And then if you're running 4 LEDs off of this solar panel and this battery, the problem with the LEDs is they only take 20 milliamps of current. If you give them way too much current, like 160 milliamps, which is coming right off the solar panel, you're going to burn out the LEDs. So you have to slow down that current. In order to slow down the current, you use this thing called a resistor. I learned a lot about circuitry and circuit boards and what resistors do, what diodes do, what transistors do, because that's all part of the board, the printed circuit board that I'm going to be showing you soon. So there's all the math there where how you can calculate which resistors you need on those white LEDs to prevent the white LEDs from burning out using our solar panels and using our battery. So we can show you all that math and all that good stuff if you're a math person. I now am going to go on to showing the kits. There's a lot to say about these kits, and I'm a little nervous about switching cameras here. My tech person is not in the room right now during the time that I need him. I'm not sure whether or not I got everything going right, but I will say that the Sunshine in a Jar kit is available through KidWind, and the website is right there for the solar lantern kit. And remember that this is an ongoing project. I was inspired to start this 15 years ago. And if you look on the website, this is what it says. The Solar Lantern Kit allows students to creatively explore solar lanterns and electrical storage. And it was developed by me in partnership with KidWind. I have the dream to empower all students across the globe with safer, cleaner solar energy. And the rest of this PowerPoint or this Canva presentation has videos explaining step by step how to go about putting the lanterns together. But I have most of them put together, and oh my gosh, let's look at the time. The time is way, way late. So let's see what I can do. I'm going to try to go back to switching my camera. Front camera here. I am not seeing the right camera here, and I'm just going to go just based on what you see here, right? All right, so I have these all put together just so that you get an idea. So here we have a photovoltaic panel, okay? And what I did is I put Velcro types of patches on them so that you can easily pull them apart. The wire there goes through the lid. And this is a customized photovoltaic panel. It's meant just for the Sunshine in a Jar kit. We put all the research and we put all of the time and development into making this solar panel. Another thing that is customized on the other side is the PCB, the printed circuit board. This printed circuit board has a lot of stuff on it, But let me just pull it apart just for now, just so that you can see how this is all put together. So the circuit board is here.
Hey,
Pam,
Pam.
Yeah.
why don't you stop
Yeah.
sharing?
Yeah.
Stop share. Okay.
Well,
Thanks.
because then your picture will be bigger. Yeah.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Okay. Thanks for the hint or the tip. I really appreciate it. All right. So can you see me a little better now?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Yes. Okay. Awesome. Okay. So we talked about the photovoltaic panel. There's a battery pack in here. Inside that battery pack is a lithium iron phosphate battery. And on the battery pack, there's also an on-off switch. So you have to pay attention to that. Then other things to pay attention to, and I'm trying to hold this right up to the camera here. This board, we put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in the past year and a half into this board. It's got a lot of stuff on it. And you might notice that there's things here that are blue. Those are screw type connectors. So the solar wires, the red and the blue solar wires here, are screwed into place using the screw type connectors. And then we have the battery pack that's already screwed in and in place, just so that you can see that. And then there's places to put in alligator clips. If you're wondering what these big holes are, that's for putting in alligator clips. And I'm going to show you how that works in a little bit. But for now, let's just do the basic lantern. To do a basic lantern, and again, this is an educational lantern, it's not one that's going to light up a whole household, you need an LED. And the LED it only works in one direction. There's one longer wire, that's the positive wire there, and then there's a shorter wire, that's the negative wire. And just to show you on camera how it goes, what I did is I put the LED right in the screw type connectors there, and then you need a screwdriver. And with a screwdriver and putting that in place, then the light does go on. So just because I don't have the other camera, I'm just showing you one that's all put together that's working. Fortunately, and very conveniently, these solar panels, they fit perfectly in a standard wide mouth glass jar. If you get the kits have a different looking jar that works a little better because the mouth is even wider, right? And then this one has rice lights in it. It's little fairy lights. If you take a string of these fairy lights and you cut off the battery pack, you can use a battery to figure out which end. There's two wires in here, and you can figure out which one's the negative and the positive after you strip it. And then you put that right into the screw type connector. I labeled the black one with a black marker. That's the negative one. And then just to show you how it works, it does have a dusk to dawn mechanism on it. So it lights up with under low light, but if you give it bright light, I've just shown a very bright light on it, then it turns off. So it's got a complete dusk to dawn mechanism where you could leave it outside, and as long as it's weatherproof, you can forget about it. It'll charge the batteries during the daytime, and then it turns the lights on at night. So it makes this nice little attractive solar garden light. There's plenty of other things that we can do with this board. Thanks to Mike's ideas, which went way beyond mine, this circuit board does a lot of stuff. So not only can you light up lights with it, but you can also run other things off of it. The other things that you can run off of it include, let me grab this one first. So using the same board, you can use alligator clips. So let me just pull this off. It's all Velcro together. And alligator clips can go right through the board. You can sort of see that there. Ready? And I just clip the alligator clips into these big holes here that say storage. And then there's this yellow motor. And this is a geared motor. What I did is I put a toothpick on there, and then I put a string on, and I weighted it down with some pennies. And this is supposed to show you a little bit of solar weightlifting. So give me a moment here. And using a bright enough light, if I can get everything to stretch well enough, give me a moment. Sorry, I just don't have enough hands. But that does light up. Of course, I got it working just fine before I was on camera. I need another helper for this one. But again, the whole idea is the bright light shines on this. It's making the voltage that works this motor, and then this moves around. I can go back to that and play around with that once I have my tech guy in here and he gets a chance to sort of help me out and switch cameras so that I don't have to do that, as awkwardly, I guess. Here's another idea. This is a motor, and this is a little bit of KidWind branding here. So you get a lot of stickers, and I use these stickers and I put them on index cards, and the kids that are, finish their standardized test soon and they just need something quiet to work on, I have them use the sticker to cut out the outline onto a piece of cardstock or index card paper. You can take the solar panel here and you can run it totally off the solar panel, putting the paper on there, and then it makes spin art. So for the spin art side of things, let's hope that this actually works. And again, I'm apologizing. We had another camera that was working, and okay. And now I'm trying to do this with not enough hands. Let me see if I got it. Okay. Yeah, my apologies. If I get a chance to, and if we switch cameras, it works a little bit better that way. But the whole concept is it does take this energy here. It spins this paper circle. And I had after school kids yesterday where we were outside doing this and they were doing spin art. When the paper spins around, then you can use markers and you put it on that paper and it makes a nice little spin art design. And what's even more entertaining is using paint that goes on there and then it makes like a splatter like effect. So that one's really cool just as well. So that is the no solder kits. We are getting more advanced now. I'd like to show you a little bit of the solder style kits. It's out of the scope of this presentation, but I try to encourage people to not be afraid of the soldering irons, because with soldering irons, if you learn that skill, not only can you create your own stuff and you can hack things, but you can also fix things just as well. So this is one that has a much smaller board on it. It's less complicated than the multi-purpose board that I just showed you, the no solder one. This one makes a permanent lantern. Once you make it, you can't turn it back again. The first product is reusable. This one is not as reusable. So soldering irons, I recommend 10th grade on up because it is a skill. It is a little bit more dangerous, not something that you'd want to do with the middle school kids. But let me tell you, it's very satisfying. You can do a lot of hacks with soldering irons. If it weren't for soldering irons, I wouldn't be able to piece together so many different things. Like I rip stuff out of electronics and toys that are battery powered, and you can use a soldering iron to solder that to a solar panel, and you can make just about anything solar paneled, including this music box. Another thing that I wanted to show you that is, again, solder style. On this one here, when you have soldering skills, you can actually put all kinds of crazy stuff on here. So for this one, I even put in rice lights, but this one had one of those little buttons that goes along with everything, and the button will allow you to switch that light from like a flashing or a fading light and everything else. So this is our board up here, but I soldered it onto a different board that allows things to like flash and fade in and fade out. So I was getting a little fancier with that. I found out that you can do all kinds of stuff. You can even make solar powered desktop fountains and everything like that once you have a soldering iron. And then the last thing that I wanted to mention to you, actually I have two, and sorry about that. I got a little thrown off by not having the camera that I wanted to have. Going back to the no solder kit, on the no solder kit, the one where you can alligator clip things in, This is a water fountain. It's a water motor. If you put it in water, and if you clip that into our boards, you can actually get a solar powered water fountain. I was doing water fountains with first and second graders yesterday, and we even 3D printed a cannon-like mechanism where it shoots out water, and we even 3D printed like a little target range for them. We got really crazy with these solar fountains, but that all works with our no solder kit. And going back to the no solder kit, this is my last thing to show you. We're getting even further along with the solar lantern kits, to the point where we're finding out that those screw type connectors don't work as easily when you have really little kids. We're talking about a first grader, second grader, kindergartner. They have a hard time with the fine motor skills getting the little screws and the little screwdrivers working. So this one has lever-like connectors instead. So with the lever-like connectors, it's much easier. All you have to do is flip the lever up, these little orange levers, and you flip them down and it locks it in place. It's a lot easier than using the screwdrivers. And then for this one, there we go. So I put a light on for that one. It works the same way. It's just easier to do the connecting this way. And let me just go back to my light here. And going back to my light, just to show the dusk to dawn mechanism. Okay, with a bright light, then it goes off. But again, without a bright direct light, then it goes back on again. So that just shows you a little bit of the dusk to dawn mechanism. And first of all, my apologies for not having a camera that works a little bit better for showing you some of this. This one worked pretty good. I just didn't have enough hands in order to show you the other things. If you stick around after this Zoom, I'd be happy to show you how this manually all goes after I tweak around with it. But that's basically sunshine in a jar. And I want to just finish off by saying the end of this whole story. Remember, we said that we were trying to do something that helps with the common good. So can you see my presentation, or are we going to go back to share screen here? The Canva presentation.
You got to go back. You got to go back to the Canva, Pam.
Okay. So to go back to the Canva, I'm going to go to share. Okay, and then share screen there. Okay.
There you go.
And okay, so now you can see it?
No, now you're seeing it, but with my picture.
Yeah. Oh, my apologies. I'm trying.
That's okay. I know. Okay. It's okay.
All right, then I'll just mention it. I'm now partnered with Tom Heck. He's a man that's in Asheville, North Carolina. There is a website called light2give.org. And he is trying to get students to assemble lanterns that get donated to local organizations that served unhoused individuals and families. We're actually getting to that last and final missing puzzle piece. And that last and final missing puzzle piece is, can we actually get to a point where we make service lanterns? Kids can make service lanterns, and those lanterns get used for more humanitarian causes. And then just going on to the idea, we can teach all the standards. We can do educational lanterns. That's what I specialize in. But can we also make lanterns for a cause? Can we actually get to the point of making that kind of impact? We're hoping that Light to Give can help to serve us that way. Work is also underway with getting us connected to Solar Buddy. That is an international type of service lantern organization. So we're hopeful. We just don't have that totally in place, but we're getting closer and closer after 15 years of effort. Thank you very much for spending the time with me, for being very patient with me. I'm not the best with technology, and feel free to stick around and ask questions. If you want me to go back and demonstrate things when I'm a little less off from having a camera that's not working right, give me a couple minutes to tweak with things, then I can show you how it all works online. All right. Thank you very much, and thank you for supporting the cause. And
Awesome,
I'm ready
Pam.
for questions. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yes. Any questions?
Just Mike here. I hope you can feel Pam's enthusiasm through the computer. I can feel it, but I know her well, so I hope you can just feel it.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I made it this far, and I'm very blessed by making it this far. But I'm also very hopeful. I mean, this is beyond my wildest dreams, but I think we still have room to grow yet. And I'm hoping that we will grow into the portion of doing the service part of things as well. And I'm more than happy to do anything for anyone in order to help to implement the solar lanterns. That means Zoom, because I'm retired, so I can Zoom with people live, develop personalized lesson plans. Whatever it takes is whatever it takes. I just want this to grow so that a portion of the proceeds help to serve people that are unhoused.
Fantastic. A number of people had to leave early and mentioned in the chat that they were very excited about trying out the solar lanterns and appreciated the presentation. So
Awesome.
And
we don't have
Joel,
any questions that came up in the chat, but you got a lot of thumbs up.
Oh, that's awesome. So I appreciate any help that we get.
And Joel, did we tell folk that they will get a sample kit eventually, hopefully in June? I don't know if that's been told to everybody, but that's part of the deal here. They'll get a sample kit, and they might even get a Solar Buddy sample too, just because we're trying to get them out in the world. So I think that Gabby will collect all that information, and then I will get a list. And then when I get after KidWind Worlds, a box will come to you, and you can play with it.
I have been
Fantastic.
collecting the information, Mike, so I will have a list ready for you.
Excellent. I'm excited to get feedback. So be ruthless to me and Pam. We're tough. We got thick skin. We're good.
And I want to thank you for offering that. I think it's really nice that the people will be able to have a kit to follow up with the presentation and get the hands-on capabilities to go with the webinar. So thank you for that.
You bet.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I know you had a lot to cover, and people were clearly very interested. I think they're assimilating it all. They don't have questions now, but I know you gave your contact information and said that you're willing to meet with anybody, anytime, anyhow. So
Yep.
Thanks again, and we will let people go since we have gotten further along than I think we planned in terms of the amount of time.
Thanks for supporting the common good. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Well, Pam, before you disappear, this isn't a question, but just a comment from Ken. I think I really appreciated your story from South Africa. And I think it just goes to show that, you know, when you engage educators in professional development and international experiences, a lot of great things can come out of that you might not have foreseen when you undertook the initial journey.
Thank you. I love talking teacher to teacher because I don't think too many of us got into the profession to get rich or famous. So there's got to be another motivation. And I think that we have that common motivation to try to do the best good we can with what we can with our careers.
Yeah, and hopefully we can give more educators experience